Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new weekend out there so far. We do have a good bit to discuss in this morning's video, as there's a chance for widespread strong to severe storms across a good chunk of the eastern U.S. There is a chance like deep down in Texas also, and across western sections of the U.S. And we'll speak a little bit on that also, but our big focus is going to be on the eastern U.S. just because this covers a pretty large area and a highly populated area. So we'll break down the latest from the Storm Prediction Center first. Just note that some of this information could change, and I'll speak on that as we go. Then we'll break down this event state by state. So, if you just want to hear about Virginia and North Carolina, for example, there'll be a timestamp up for that. And we'll speak on the timing, the structure, the evolution of these storms as they unfold throughout the morning, afternoon, evening hours. And then we'll break down parameters, severe parameters like, the ingredients, things like that. We'll speak on that very briefly. Then we'll speak on the days to come throughout the weekend and early next week as far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook. And we will also talk about the rest of the country, and then we'll round the video off by giving you guys a Bible devotion if you're interested in that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate you guys responding in the way you did for yesterday morning's video. I mentioned, definitely hit that like button if you do like it. And I noticed that there was a huge uptick in likes in yesterday morning's video. So definitely appreciate you guys responding in that way. More importantly, though, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So it gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. It's the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. I do think some tweaks will be made here in the next hour or two when they drop another update, and I'll be sure to put that in a pinned comment in the comments below this video. But right now, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. One thing that has changed since yesterday, the slight risk is extending a little bit deeper into South Carolina and a good bit further north into southern New England. So a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, get a little bit closer, goes from Augusta, Columbia, South Carolina, through Charlotte, Greensboro, Hickory, all the way up through western areas of Virginia. It goes all the way up through Roanoke, Washington, D.C. It slashes through areas of Maryland, eastern areas of PA, northern areas of New Jersey. It goes just north of New York City, and it goes all the way into western areas of Connecticut, central and western Mass, into southern areas of Vermont and New Hampshire. Let's make this a little bit larger again. Sometimes I feel like the closer we get, the more blurry it gets, but a marginal risk extends around that slight risk, and the marginal risk is pretty large. For example, we had a marginal risk yesterday in areas of the southeast, and we had a tornado, I believe, close to Gainesville, Florida. I'm sorry, Gainesville, Georgia, not Florida. There's a Gainesville in Florida also, Florida Gators. But anyways, and we had some wild weather in the Carolinas also, and just a lot of severe weather out there yesterday. So just because you're in that dark green area, level 1 out of 5, doesn't mean that your chances are so much lower. There's still a risk of severe weather. So that marginal risk, New Orleans, southern Mississippi, almost all of Alabama, almost all of Georgia, the Panhandle, Florida, eastern Tennessee, the eastern half of Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, a good chunk of West Virginia, the rest of South Carolina, a good portion of North Carolina. I think this marginal risk will actually extend a little bit further to the east and maybe include the rest of North Carolina and Virginia in later outlooks. But marginal risk is up for Philadelphia, New York City through Boston, all the way up to Portland, Maine. It does extend, pretty far north up into New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. So I do want to mention there is a marginal risk for extreme southern sections of Texas, and there's also a marginal risk, which is not as common, level 1 out of 5 for areas of Nevada, Idaho, big chunk of Nevada, very small section of Idaho, and southeast Oregon. So what's driving this today? Let's back it up over here. Tornado threat. There is a 2% risk in the Panhandle and a very small section of southern Alabama, and there's also a 2% risk in this green area up here that includes areas of the Mid-Atlantic and southern New England. Now, one thing that could change, I'm going to draw on this a little bit. I think, well, this is from where I drew on something from yesterday morning's video. I think that we could get a 2% risk of a tornado extended maybe down into here. I think it's possible. We'll see what happens. Maybe that green gets extended down here. That'd be a 2% risk. I don't think we'll get a bump up to a 5% risk, but I do think we could have an extension or another area introduced for a 2% risk of a tornado. Now, the wind threats, pretty much in the entire slight risk area, you have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat is there too. Maybe a little bit smaller, but in that yellow area, the slight risk level 2 out of 5 risk, that is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And really what's driving the marginal risk out here is a little bit of a wind threat, 5% risk of damaging winds. So that is the Storm Prediction Center outlook. The chance for excessive rainfall is pretty low, but there's a pretty large area that runs at least a 5% risk of flash flooding. Someone will probably get under some sort of flash flood warning today. It always happens when you just have widespread strong to severe storms. But trying to figure out where that is next to impossible. But there is a chance for flooding. Might get a 15% yellow area issued somewhere inside of this 5% risk area in later outlooks. We'll see. So let's break it down state by state. Let's talk about Mississippi and Alabama first. Timestamp is up here, 8 a.m. Let's get this rolling. So we start to get to about mid-morning, 11 a.m., lunchtime, and we got this cluster of thunderstorms developing along the Alabama-Mississippi line. Could be a little bit more west, could be a little bit more east. We'll see. But I do think very quickly these could grow and get stronger, mature, and hit strong to severe limits. We got scattered activity near Hattiesburg Meridian. It's pretty early in the day, too. 1 p.m., storms already firing. And this could develop into a more of a line of storms. And this area experienced a line of storms yesterday afternoon and evening also. So this is around 2 p.m. Shows storms over Meridian, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham up to Huntsville, Florence. 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Storms are more so over Alabama at this point, letting up over Mississippi. And then we take it to 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Storms begin to more so move into Georgia, but still very stormy in the Georgia-Alabama line down to the Alabama-Florida line. We got storms moving across the panhandle of Florida at this point. And just looks pretty stormy down here in southern Alabama this evening. So 6 p.m. Now we get into 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Could have some additional activity. Could develop maybe some downpours across Alabama. But I do think this will be an afternoon to evening type thing for Mississippi and especially Alabama. Now let's jump up to Kentucky and Tennessee. Severe weather threat won't be as high today compared to yesterday. It was definitely active yesterday. We take it into about mid-morning. And same thing up in Tennessee. I think line of storms tries to develop in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Clarksville, up to Bowling Green, Kentucky areas. And then we start to get into about 2 p.m. Just an all-out line of storms begins to develop. I think the atmosphere will become unstable ahead of this line in the eastern half of Tennessee and Kentucky. This will fuel this line of storms, 2 p.m. It's taking another 2 hours. This is 4 p.m. Line of storms making its way through. This could produce some gusty, severe winds and some large hail, maybe a brief tornado. I doubt it, though, but it could happen. This is 6 p.m. Just stormy, rainy times. This around dinner time tonight in eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. I do want you guys to note, though, more activity trying to fire here in the western half of Kentucky, maybe north of Nashville around 6 p.m. Kind of the upper low spinning around over here. These storms could do something tricky. We'll watch for them. But we get into 8 p.m., 10 p.m., maybe some additional just action spinning around here. But I do think the worst will get going in the middle portions of Tennessee and Kentucky and sweep east with a kind of sweeping line of storms throughout the afternoon and evening hours. Now, let's show Florida some love. You guys need some rain. I've been hearing you guys, and I totally get it. It's been a very, very dry spring. I venture to say some areas in Florida might maybe have not seen rain in a couple months. I'm not quite sure, but it's been a while. 8 a.m., we do have this area of energy sweeping across the panhandle in the form of some storms. So, if you live up here in the panhandle of Florida, these could produce a quick spin up also. There's a 2% risk of a tornado up here for a reason. But, you start to get into about this afternoon. This is 4 p.m. This is 5 p.m. Maybe some scattered downpours trying to bubble up. In inland areas of the peninsula of Florida. There ain't a whole lot showing up here, but we'll take anything we can get. Then more scattered storm activity could get going in the panhandle of Florida. And then we start to get into about midnight. Maybe some showers try to get to the peninsula, but Today doesn't look like a big day for Florida. The Panhandle, it's a different story, strong to severe thunderstorm risk. But I do think as we get into tomorrow and the next day, could have some more opportunities for some rain. You're just going to probably have to deal with a thunderstorm activity with it. Now, let's talk about Georgia and South Carolina. I live here in South Carolina, here in Columbia area, Lexington. So I'm thinking about maybe, skedaddling out my house this afternoon and maybe chasing a storm or two myself. I always like a good local chase. Don't have to drive too far. But this is mid-morning, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. This is lunchtime. Kind of a decaying line of energy moving through Atlanta. I don't think this will do much. But as we start to get to the prime heating of the day, this is 4 p.m., some storms could begin to refire anywhere in Georgia. And then some scattered activity begins to develop in the Midlands of South Carolina, upstate. But I really think it really gets going around dinner time tonight. So this is around 6 p.m. Storms begin to fire now. You can see the pop-ups in reds, orange, and yellows here. And, we get to 7 p.m., 8 p.m., some strong to severe storms maybe down here in Statesboro, Savannah, around Columbia. And then we got a more intense line of storms rumbling through and moving out of Alabama, hitting Atlanta. Atlanta, you might get hit by a severe line of storms tonight, this evening, 6 to 9 p.m., something like that. But look at these storms. I mean, the sun's setting at this point. Could have a lightning show if you're one of those people like me. I think most men can get down with this most of the time. You like to sit on the front porch, watch a lightning show off in the distance. It might be your night here across areas of Georgia and South Carolina. But a lot of storm activity begins to develop in the low country of South Carolina, the Midlands of South Carolina. But listen, these storms could be anywhere. I'm actually going to flip it and we're going to look at the latest HRRR model here in a second. But a lot of strong to severe thunderstorm activity around 10 p.m. tonight showing up in southwest Georgia. And then we get to about midnight. Could just have a lot of heavy rain and storm activity moving through the eastern half of South Carolina. Could have a line of storms sweeping across southern Georgia. And then even 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, some storms are moving along the South Carolina coastline and eastern areas of the state. But I do want to back this up, and let's look at some latest model guidance. Let's see if 10Z is running all the way through. It is. So let's see if this switches some things up. We start to get into this afternoon. Still shows the decaying line of storms, but here's the storms firing, now showing more action in the upstate of South Carolina, which makes sense compared to the Storm Prediction Center. But still is kind of void of a lot of activity later this evening. And then we have to just watch this line of storms that consistently keeps showing up this evening across northern Georgia. And this could pack one heck of a punch too, but just more so scattered activity across South Carolina. And then I think more widespread activity moves in more so later tonight. So if you're a night owl, staying up a little bit later, the storms are not going to be done in a good chunk of South Carolina and Georgia, even as you get into tonight. So now North Carolina and Virginia, starting this morning, we take it about 1 p.m., some rain beginning to move into southwest North Carolina. Take it to about 3 p.m., scattered activity forming. See the pop-ups here and like the reds and the yellows and the oranges. This is pop-up storm activity. Got some scattered activity in western Virginia, western North Carolina. And then you notice how these are more so discrete-looking cells, and this is why I think there's a possibility they could extend a little bit of a tornado risk down into this area. I could see them doing it maybe down into this area right into here. We'll see what happens. Okay, that's just me taking a shot here. But, these storms could pop up anywhere, guys. This is 6 p.m., this is 7 p.m. Shows a lot of storm activity across the western areas of North Carolina and Virginia. And then we start to get into 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., storms hitting Greensboro, 11 p.m., and this looks like it tries to develop into an all-out line of storms and moving through central North Carolina, central Virginia. Doesn't look too intense, but look as you get after midnight into eastern North Carolina. Line of storms tries to actually grow and get stronger, sweep through Raleigh, Fayetteville, Greenville. This is getting at about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and then begins to try to exit the coastline. So it's going to be tough figuring out. What I would say is, just after lunchtime today, watch for storms to form in western Virginia, western North Carolina. By mid to late afternoon, they make it to the central portions of the state, and then later tonight, they begin to get more so in the eastern sections of the state. So Virginia, let's talk about you guys really quick. West Virginia, I'm sorry. We take it to about midday, not a whole lot going on, and then by the time we're getting into this afternoon, widespread storm activity, especially in the eastern half of the state. You can see some stronger storms, sort of east of Charleston around Elkins, Beckley. You guys could experience some strong to severe storms. More so just heavy rain up in Ohio, but a lot of storm activity. This is 6 p.m., just a stormy afternoon, evening here in the state, and some of these could, pack a punch, some gusty winds, some hail's possible, and there's a tornado threat in this area, but just be aware of that. And this is 10 p.m., this is 11 p.m., this is midnight, and I do think things chill out a bit after midnight in West Virginia. Speaking on the D.C. area, the Mid-Atlantic, we take it to about 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. There is a cell showing up here, around the Harrisonburg area. This could, move towards Winchester, 5, 6 p.m., This is 7 p.m. Most of the storms looks like they're staying mainly west of the D.C.-Baltimore area, but I do think there's an opportunity for some storms even in this area around this same time frame. It's just not showing up on this run. We get into about 11 p.m., we get into midnight, we get into 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. This particular run doesn't show much over the D.C.-Baltimore area, but I do think it is favored to the west of you guys, but don't take this run and make plans around it. You guys know that this is just simulated model guidance. This isn't grand conclusions. It's just things that we can look at to try to predict the future as far as the weather. The PA area, Pennsylvania, we get to about midday. Some showers will start to make its way into the western areas of the state. Not much in the way of storm activity initially, and then these could tap into some fuel in the atmosphere, and then we could get some of these to, hit, I guess you would say, storm criteria in the northern counties of PA, western PA, maybe some stronger cells form in the southern areas of the state. And then, we start to get to 7 p.m., and there is some stronger storms that I do think begin to develop. Somerset, over to Harrisburg, Gettysburg, you guys could get some storms. And 9 p.m. looks like it's a pretty stormy evening for the southern half of PA. And some of these storms will sneak into Scranton, Allentown, Reading. You guys could get some storms. We get into about midnight tonight and just rounds of heavy rain. So if you need rain in PA, I think it's a good day that and night that you're going to have an opportunity to get it for sure. And then the New York City up the Boston area and everybody in between, take it at midday, not a whole lot. And then we get to about 4 p.m. Look at those storms developing. And listen, these could produce a tornado in areas of Connecticut and western Mass today. You see these cluster storms, 4 p.m. I'm telling you, be aware of these. They can produce a quick spin up, obviously some severe wind gusts and some hail also. But this will develop, maybe last a few hours, drift up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Could have additional development that gets going. Look at the storms there, right where PA, New Jersey, and New York come together. Poconos, Catskills. And then we get into about midnight, just clusters of rain and storms begins to move into really north of New York City. This particular run doesn't get a whole lot of anything in New York City. And it does favor, just like I was saying with the D.C., Philadelphia, and Baltimore area, this does favor a little bit further inland for the storm risk. So be aware of that. And then the rest of this outlook area, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, we take it into 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. This is 4 p.m. See these storms near Manchester, near Lewiston, Portland? I'm telling you, a little bit of a tornado risk with this. Damaging wind, more so just rain up here. But you see these cells here? Could have a few supercells in this area. And then they'll kind of dance around and try to get off the shoreline here. And you'll get some heavy rain in the coastal areas of Maine throughout the evening hours. And I do think these lose some steam. So interesting day ahead for sure. If you look at the ingredients with this event, this is the low-level wind field, winds at 850 millibars. So about 4,000 to 6,000 feet, a mile above your heads in this area. And what you're going to notice is, of course, we got that southerly flow. This is going to see the wind barbs kind of the flag pointing to the south. This means the flow's coming out the south. This is going to, yank up some moisture from the lower latitudes. But one thing you'll notice here is we got this low-level pulse of energy. So, we got this low-level jet in areas of 30 to 40, 45 knots. So this will provide kind of the oomph in the atmosphere for these storms to really more so explode later in the evening. Pack a punch, damaging wind threat. For sure. And, as we start to get into later this evening, Honestly, most of the lift and most of the wind energy is swinging in then across the Carolinas up into Virginia. You see these little impulses of low-level kinematic energy, if you will. So it'll be an interesting. I don't think that what I'm saying is I don't think the threat's just going to be for the afternoon. I think it'll continue into the late evening hours and could have some nasty storms all the way into the eastern sections of the Carolinas and Virginia, maybe the Delmarva, even as we're getting into later tonight, as just this low-level impulse of energy gets going around this spinning low pressure right here with these just short waves pivoting around it. So we'll watch out for that. I do want to mention the rainfall in this area. Let's look. All right here. And let's look at the 48-hour predicted rainfall per the National Weather Service between now and 2 a.m. Monday. So a good bit of rain could fall in certain areas. We need it in a lot of areas, especially the further southeast you get. How much rain, say, in Florida? Let's show you guys some love down here in the southeast. Just, it's weird. You know, there's definitely some disagreement between certain National Weather Services as it looks really glitchy, but a few tenths of an inch of rain would do wonders down here in Florida, and we certainly need it. So, and then just predicted wind gust swath. You can see it's in like little chunks and areas. This is because this particular run is just picking up on different clusters of storms, but we're going to have pockets of wind gusts that are capable of producing 30, 40, 50 miles per hour winds. And then if we look at the updraft Felicity swath through this region, you notice that there is a couple little areas to watch that, you know, we could get some spin ups. Let's look at the latest run. Nothing any more impressive than that. But if we go up into, say, New England, which I think we should show, this is what I'm talking about. Let's get a little bit closer at this. I'm going to look at Massachusetts. You see these little areas right here? I'm not going to say Mitch called it, but I do think we're going to have the opportunity for a couple tornado warnings right here in this region today. So if you're tuning in, let me know what you see in this area. I think that out of this entire event today into tonight, I think this area is the best area for an isolated spin-up or tornado. We'll see what happens. So southern New England might be a day to watch. Moving forward here, there is a risk of severe weather for tomorrow. Kind of some of the same areas, but it's not going to be as high end, I don't think. Could uptrend. Marginal risk of strong to severe storms across this area, and we'll just have to watch for more so a tornado threat along the eastern coastline of Florida, very small section of Georgia, and then we'll just have a risk of some damaging winds and hail, but it's kind of the same system generating these rounds of severe weather. And then sort of day one of what I think is going to be a pretty active stretch across the southern high plains. It gets going as we do have a marginal risk across New Mexico and areas of Texas. And speaking of the beginning stages of this pattern out here, as we get into day 3, which is for Monday, they already have a slight risk up for some of the same areas that's been experiencing a lot of strong to severe storms, especially the week last week, because technically we're still in this week. But level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, Midland, Abilene, San Angelo, just kind of restarting this pattern. And all we know is that there's a 15% risk of severe weather in this yellow area. But there's also already a 10% risk of significant severe weather, which is probably going to be very large hail. So it's going to be a supercell special probably out here with this, just enough flow overlapping enough moisture in this area. Now, I'll tell you, as we start to get past this day, like day 4 and onward, there isn't enough confidence to have a 15% risk, but we're going to have severe weather days all week next week, in my opinion. And if I had to guess where they're going to be, let's give a blank screen here. I would say that you're going to get severe weather opportunities through this entire area right into here next week. Now, I think in the beginning stages of next week, I think it could be more so in this area. Then as we get a couple days into the week, could go more into this area than this area. So I'm just watching just enough kinematics going through this area and enough low-level moisture hanging out down here. I think we're going to have severe weather days. And, I've been speaking on that on and off. Not going to go deep into that in this morning's video, but I'll speak on it in the videos to come. As far as the rest of the country, with this upper trough moving in, you got a stout southerly flow over the western states, so some rain is falling out here. And then we have a lot of rain across the eastern U.S., and this is because of the energy off the system that's going to generate all this severe weather across the eastern U.S. today. So I already got a pretty intense line of storms moving across the Panhandle of Florida, area of storms moving across Georgia. About to move into Georgia, but it's still in Alabama, and a surge of moisture through the Mid-South, Kentucky, and the Ohio Valley interior sections of New England. So watches, warnings, and advisories. I mean, that's pretty quiet. I mean, it's not a whole lot going on out there. Got a sneeze coming. Excuse me. Thank y'all. But a little bit different look here. There's no point in breaking it out section by section, but we've already talked about a severe weather threat. Here's a look at everything as a whole for the eastern half of the country. You can see just all those thunderstorms forming today across the eastern section of the country. I do want to mention this area right into here, associated with the actual low. There's probably going to be some thunderstorms with this too, and I would watch this area of storms, and I talked a little bit about it when I showed Kentucky and Tennessee. This could produce a little quick spin up in that area. I just want to watch that. But there is some spinning energy right here in areas of Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, etc. That's going to just keep you guys wet throughout the next 24 hours as just that upper low spins over your area. A lot of stable air in this region, but you guys are just going to have a pesky 24 hours of rain. So then the western U.S., just watch for some strong to severe storms across Nevada. It doesn't look like much, but stout southerly flow, we could get some strong to severe storms across Nevada into areas of Oregon and southern Idaho today. You see all that energy developing? If anything, you're going to get a lot of heavy rain with just plumes of rain going up through the state here. And then temperatures, it'll be an interesting day across New England. Southern half of New England, 70s and 80s. Interior sections, 40s and 50s. Then the extreme eastern U.S. will get pretty warm into the 80s. It'll be humid too. And Florida will be hot and humid, 80s and 90s. And then the middle of the country, a little bit cooler with 50s, 60s, and 70s. More so a spring day across the middle of the country. It's actually warmer in the northern high plains up into Canada than it is further south. High pressure up here, and then this is the western U.S. So that's the update on that. Let's go to this, and let's do our Bible devotion. Hopefully we're nice and crisp with this morning's one. But this morning we're back in James, and I think I mentioned 2 days ago that I've been liking reading James lately. I've been getting a lot from it. But this morning it is, and I wrote a couple things down, so if you see me looking down a whole lot, I'm reading something. But this morning, James chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who endures trials. Blessed is the one who endures trials, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. So, we're called to get through those valleys and those tough times in life, and to more importantly lean on God during those times and go to him, seek him, and he'll help us through it. So I wrote down a couple things and I said, you will be blessed for not giving up during hard times. When you seek and lean on God. So you'll be blessed for not giving up during hard times when seeking and leaning on God. The blessing is the growth that occurs with your relationship with God. That blessing will make you stronger, wiser, smarter, and will be used to make you better. As that change occurs, your faith will change and grow, and you will be able to handle future trials better. And your growth glorifies God. So what I mean by that is your growth glorifies God, and is because I feel like everything connects, and I've said that many times. So someone's watching you always. I'm a big believer on that. So someone's seeing you struggle, and whether that person's helping you or just kind of watching from the sidelines, someone's seeing you struggle. Someone's watching to see how you handle it. And if, they see you and notice you, that you're positive about it, that, they see you being active with your faith and going to church and reading the Bible and talking about God, and say if there's a conversation between that person and you, and they're, telling you how, I'm having faith in God during this situation. I'm leaning on him. I'm praying. And then they see you pull out of that valley, out of that trial, out of that hard time that you were going through. They see that happen. Well, so what happens then is they all of a sudden relate that hard time that you went through, those difficult times, they relate that to God, and they say, okay, well, obviously God helped him pull out of this situation, helped him or her pull out of this situation. So there has to be truth into this. And all of a sudden you plant a seed, and all of a sudden that person that was watching you might be inspired to, hey, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to start talking to God. And next thing you know, we have another follower of Christ. So I hope that makes sense. You never know how you can plant seeds. You really don't. And then God moves in, waters it, and takes care of the rest. But I believe God uses everything, and he uses those hard times we go through. But here's the thing is he can't really use those times if we just crumble and let the blows of life beat us down. And then all of a sudden we resort to drinking, doing drugs, feeling like the world owes us something. That is huge. That's something that's not talked about as much. All of a sudden you become, get this victim mentality like, well, the world's against me, so I have every excuse in the world to be the way I am. Man, that is so toxic. That is an evil, such a negative mindset that I would just encourage you guys to not have. And once upon a time I had it. It's part of my testimony and growth. So God will use your hard times, and almost allow other people to be inspired by it. And all of a sudden, they're like, man, this God thing is really something. It's really real. And I'm about to go try it. And all of a sudden, the rest is history. So, we need you. We need you to pull out these hard times. And it's going to be used. It's going to be used, guys. So just remember that. And listen, at the end of the day, the scripture says, you'll be blessed for it. So all those hard times that you're going through, your personality will change. The way you handle, like I said there, the way you handle the next valley, because ultimately, here's the thing, guys, is the blows of life are going to keep coming. You make it through one, another one could be right around the corner. Or it could be a year up the road, but another one is coming. But, if you grow through what you're going through currently, when the next one comes, you'll be stronger than ever. You'll know how to handle it just as good as the last one. And, you continue to grow. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all so much. And stay safe today with the severe weather.